And here we go, Agricola again. This is in inverted commas, so it's a speech. Quotiens, whenever, causus belli, the cause of the war, the reason, and necessitatem nostrem intuor. So here's our deponent verb. So it's whenever I'm looking at or looking into with the n, the cause of the war and our necessitatem, which is unavoidable, or our destiny, it probably means here. Magnus mihi, that's the dative, animus est, hodionum die. So there was, to me, there's a great heart, a great courage, great heart there is to me. Hodionum is the adjective for today, and day is day. So this day today, this is a great thing to my heart. Consensum qui. This is a fourth declension. Consensum, this is when people are in agreement. So this agreement, vestrum initium libertatos toti Britanniae fore. So fore means it's going to be in the future. So this is the initium. This is the beginning. Vestrum libertatis. This is the beginning of our freedom, toti Britanniae, for all of Britain. So this consensum, this agreement and unity is the beginning of all the freedom for all of Britain. Nam et, for also, universi coistis. This is second person plural, so this says you are here gathered together, basically, coistis, universally, all of you gathered here, and servitutus expertes. As you see, this is the third declension ending, which means it has nothing to do with it, or it's untouched, as the Loeb calls it. You're untouched with slavery, servitutus. Now, expertus, if it was with US, or experta, that would mean more like the English version of it. And nulla terre, so there's no lands, ultra, beyond, and ne mare quidem. So ne quidem means they're not even mare in the sea, which is an I stem. Securem imminente, that's present participle, nobis classe romana. So we see the classe romana is in the ablative. So beyond this, there's no lands, not even a sea, which is securum, which is safe. Nobis to us, with this Roman fleet, and again the ablative in the present participle. So the Roman fleet is imminente, which is threatening or is hanging over them. Nobis to us. Ita, so thus or so, prolium and armor. So thus in battle and arms, quae, which, relative pronoun, honesta, which is dignity and worthiness, fortibus, to the brave, that's plural. So the things which are very dignified to the brave, eadem, demonstrative pronoun, ea is the female version, so that even the same thing, etiam even, ignavus, to the cowardly. So we have fortibus to the brave and ignavus to the cowardly is tutissima sunt. Again, we have this a ending. We've had the relative pronoun in the female. Tutissimus is in the female, which is the most safe, and honesta, which is the female version at the end of it. So what's worthy to the brave even is the most safe recourse, basically, to the cowardly. Priores pugna. This looks like nominative plural. So in prior battles, prior fightings, quibus, by which adversus Romanus, which were against the Romans, pretty simply, varia fortuna curtatum est. So this means the contest, the curtatums, had various fortunes, various outcomes. So in the prior battles against the Romans, there's various ways fortune went. Spem and subsidium, which is hope and auxiliaries or help, in nostris manibus. So this is a preposition in, taking ablative plurals, nostris manibus in apposition, habebant. So in these prior battles, habebant, they had hope and help. Hope and help were in our hands. Quia, because nobilissimi, the most noble. We have plural again with the I there, so it's a superlative, the most noble. Totius Britannia, in all of Britain. Totius is a what do you call them? It's one of those naughty 9 words. It has the I in the dative. Anyway, and eo in ipsis penetralibus citae. So, which is most noble in all of Britain, which is situated eo in ipsis in the deepest penetralibus, which is usually when you go inside a temple. The penetralibus is the very inside part, when you've penetrated deep inside of the shrine usually. Nec ulla, ulla usually follows negative, so neither is there any espientes as present participle, so looking over littora, the shores of slavitude. I'll just wait till we get to the end of the sentence and go back over it. Oculus is our eyes, quoque also. A contactu, we're looking at a fourth declension. Dominitionis involatos habemus. Okay, so we have eyes involatos, oculus involatos. Our eyes have been untouched by this contact, which is usually a more of a like as a disease aspect, or you've been tainted. Dominationibus, this is being by being dominated, so also what the tyrants do. So in the prior battles which we had against the Romans, we had hope and help was in our own hands. We are the most noble in all of Britain, and we're inside the deepest part of the shrines, ipsis itself. Neither have we aspiciens, neither have we seen any shores of slavery, and we have our own eyes been unviolated by any outside contagion of tyranny and mastery. Nos, we, terrarum in libertatus extremos recessus. So you might want to say recessus for ourselves. So we have receded now to the extremis, the edges of the lands and of liberty, ipsi itself, and sinos fames, more like in the bay or in the bosom of fame, in hunc diem, in this day, defend it. So basically we're going to have to defend ourselves at the edge of the world in freedom and at the edge of infamy, and nunc terminus Britannia patent. So now the terminus, the ends of Britain, patent is open, at qui and omne ignotum, and so everything which is unknown, pro magnifico est. So everything that's unknown is now magnified, I suppose you'd say. But nulla jam ultra gens. But there's jam now, nulla gens ultra. So now there is no races ultra further on. Nihil is nothing, nisi, except fluctus, a fourth declension, and saxa, which is the fluctus is the waves and saxa are the rocks. So it's probably rocky cliffs or rocky shoreline. And infestiores Romani. This is a comparative. These are the hostile Romans. So there's nothing but waves and rocks and crags and hostile Romans. Quorum, of whose superbiam, in the accusative, which is arrogance and proudness, frustra, in vain, per obsequium and modestiam effugias. Of whose arrogance, effugias, you will be fleeing, frustra, in vain, per obsequium means being obedient and following, and modestiam, which is self-restraint and controlling yourself. Raptores orbis, this is describing the Romans. They are people who rapture things. They seize them and take them away. They're thieves of the world. Postquam, which means after, cunctus vastantibus defure terrae. Cuncta means everything they have devastated in the lands, and defure, they are now lacking, which comes from desum. Mare scrutentur, so they're now scrutinizing the sea. They're now searching through the sea after they've devastated all of the land, the terra. There's nothing left. Si locubilis hostis erat. So if the enemy are lucubilis, which means rich, avarai, the Romans are very avaricious and greedy. If they're pauper, this is the people. If they're hostis, which is a I stem, if they're poor, see this locubilis here is in the plural, pauper here is in the singular, but it doesn't really matter. So if they're just paupers, the enemy, then the Romans are ambitiosus. That means they just have ambition. They're just doing it for the hell of it, really, to be famous. Quos non-oriens, non-accidens, satiavert. So this non picks up from the satiavert. They're not satiated, they're not satisfied with the east, and non-equidens with the west either. Soli, alone, omnium of all. Opes, which is resources and wealth, and inopium, which means lacking. Para, equally. Adfectu concupiscunt. So, sole out of everyone, they desire resources and just poverty, and any place they can take equally with equal affectations. Or ferre, this looks like infinitive, so to take away, trucidare, to cut down people, rapere, to steal things. Falsus nominibus imperium. These are ablative, so with the false names imperium of an empire, atqui, and when faciont solitudinem, so when they make wastelands, the solitudes, they appellant, they call it pacem, peace. And chapter 31, liberos is children, cuiqui, to someone in the dative, to a person, children, and propinquos suas, and their blood relatives, they're propinquos, which means they're close ones. Nature, charismos esse, so charismos is a superlative, means the most dearest. So we'll take voluit here as going with the cui, so to him he wants, by nature, well, oblatifies that, the most dear to be his children and his blood relatives. Hi, these, demonstrative pronoun, through dialectus, these are conscriptions, recruitments, or forantur, they are taken away, again it's plural passive, they're taken away, serviture, so in future they'll be serving, alibi elsewhere, it's another adverb. The conjuxes sorosque, so this is the spouses and the sisters, etiam, even if hostilem libidinem, these are in apposition and accusative, if fugit. So even if these sisters and wives, they flee away from the enemy's lust, nomine, in the name, amicorum, of friendship, genitive, and hospitum, and this is like guests, polunta. So the wives and the sisters are polluted, even if they free the lusts of the enemy, in the name of friendship, and guests they are polluted. The bona, which is a person's goods, so it's plural, bona, goods, queeds, the enclitic, and fortune, so the goods and fortunes, in tributum, which is in tribute, aga atqui annus infrumentum. So the fields and the year is taken up infrumentum, in making grain, basically, is what it's saying. And the corpora itself, and the body itself, ac manus, and the hands, silvus and pollutibus, so in woodlands and in marshes, immuniendis. This is a verbal adjective, a gerundive, going with pollutibus. So, in measuring them or going through the woods and the marshes, amongst verbra, which is beatings, and contumelius, which is insults, conterunta, which means wore down, from terro means wear down, and con just groups things together. So the body itself and the hands, they are wore down by measuring out and passing through these woodlands, making paths basically through the woods and the marshlands, and at the same time they're getting beaten and insulted. Nata servitude, so born in the servitude. Mancipia is a formal way of being when a slave is sold or when you receive a slave. Semo, so once veniunt, once they are sold, those born in the slavery, once they are sold, and ultro a dominus alunta, and they are alunted, they are nourished by the masters, ultro of their own accord, basically. But in Britannia, Britain, it's servitudem, so its own servitude, cotide daily emit, it buys, and cotide, again, daily it pascits, basically. So normal slaves get sold and the masters spend money on the food, but Britain, it has to buy its own slavery, it's feeding the masters as well, cotide pascit, so pascit's just a way of feeding daily. And we'll have our daily dictionary word. Mancipium, it's a neuter. Formal possession of goods bought or purchased, property, slave purchased. Okay, so to continue. Axicut, and just as when, in familia, in a family, the recentissimus, again, this is now the nominative, quisque means each one. So, just as in a family, each one who was the most recent, or the last one, servorum of the slaves, even conservus ludibrio est, even as a mockery is made, conservus is a fellow service slave. So each one who's the most recent of the slaves, he is mocked by his fellow slaves, his conservus. Sic in hoc orbis terrarum, thus in this orb of the world, in the whole world, vetere, that looks ablative, so it would be the old famulatu, this is another word for slaves, the famuluses are slaves. So in this world of old slaves, the novae, nos, and viles. So nos is we are the novae, the new, and viles, we are the cheap ones. So we are the new and cheapest. And in excidium petimer, that's the passive. So we are aimed at, or we are set out for excidium, for destruction. So since we're the newest and the cheapest, they're seeking to kill us, basically. Nequi enim ava nobis aut metalla aut portus sunt. So for neither are the ava, this is ploughed lands, nobis to us. So neither for us are there ploughed lands or metalla, which are mines, or portus, which is harbours. Quibus exercendis, another gerundive, reservamur. Quibus means for which we are reserved for exercising or for use. So as Britons, they don't have ploughed fields or mines or any harbours, which they can be reserved for use. And we're nearly done. Virtus porro is an adverb, so furthermore, or virtus is valour or virtue, and ferotio, which is a ferocious nature, is subjectorum of the subjects. So furthermore, valour and ferociousness of the subjects, ingrata imperientibus, so is unfavourable or not looked well upon to the imperientibus, the people giving orders. Et longinquites, which is the length of a long distance, and secretum itself. So the secrecy they have themselves and their distances itself. Quo tutius eo suspectius. We have two comparatives in a correlative of quo and eo. Normally when you get quo with a comparative, it was an ut, but so the more safe we are, the more suspect we are. This is how these two go together. So the distance the way that they are and the secrecy of it themselves, the same way that it makes them more safer, it makes them more suspect to the Romans. Ita, so thus, sublata spe, with hope removed, that's in the ablative, venia, a genitive of pardon, so with hope removed of a pardon, tandem at last, sumite, an imperative plural, so take up enimum, your heart, take up heart or courage. Tam quibus salus quam, we have a tam quam. Quibus salus, quibus gloria, carissima. So you need to ask yourself, which is most carissima? What is most dear? Salus, which is safety, tam salus, or quam quibus gloria? Is safety more important, or is glory, carissima, most dear? The brigantes, femina duce, with a female leader, exurea colonium, which is accusative. They were able to burn a colony. Expugnare castra, they were able to storm a camp. And, nisi, unless it felicitas, which is luck, verticent, had turned into secordia, which is a type of sluggishness. Again, cor means your heart. So you have vicordia, which is madness, and secordia, which is slothfulness. Exure jugum potere, they would have been able to exurate, to shake off the jugum, the yoke, end to end. Nos, we, integri in domino, so we are whole and indomitable, and in libertatem, and in with the accusative, and towards, and for liberty, non in penitentiam, so not with regret, but for liberty, bellutaturi, which is the future plural for we're about to go to war. Primo, so in the first place, start immediately, ostendimus, we shall show in our congress here. This is when two armies come to meet, they come into congress, they meet together, which, sibi, for ourselves, Caledonia, viros, si posword. Si posword means of separated. So, the men have placed the way for themselves, and quas they shall show, ostendibus, what the Chaldeans have kept separated for themselves in reserve strength.